Well, starting next week, an organisation set up to tackle the ice epidemic will travel the country to assess the problem. Today, they've painted a desperate picture of what they expect to find.
Ice. It's one of the most addictive and high-risk drugs. Around 250,000 Australians are users, and more than 1.7 million Aussies have used crystal methamphetamine in the past. And that number is rising rapidly.
This is one of the worst problems that we've seen in addiction, throughout Australia's history because of the amount of people that it's affecting within the community.
To combat the epidemic, the National Ice Task Force, a group fronted by former Victorian Police Chief Ken Lay, is travelling around regional Australia to assess the damage.
For the last decade or so, we've really tried to arrest our way out of this problem, and the truth is we're not making a huge impact. So we need to look at some other options, whether that's in the health, whether that's in the education space.
Since 2011, the prevalence of ice in Australia has risen from 5% of known illicit drug imports to nearly 60% last year.
The first thing to understand is we haven't got the answers. The answers to this problem don't lie with government. So this will be about talking to the community, talking to ice-affected people, talking to the experts.
It's also becoming increasingly available online. Sellers have taken to dating apps and classified sites like Craigslist, meaning ice delivered to your door with just a call or an email.
The internet is a massive source and way in which people score drugs, and to think what it could develop to 5-10 years down the track if we don't do something about it and change it, is a really terrifying thought.
Hayley is a former ice addict who bought and sold crystal meth on dating apps. Hayley, I've got to say, I was so shocked when I'm hearing people are using dating apps to sell drugs. I mean, is ice that readily available?
Yeah, no, it really is. It's, it's not only on the streets, but, if you've got the smarts behind it and you think to use the dating sites, it's there.
So, Hayley, this mightn't have occurred with you, but do you know anyone who would get their ice delivered to their house?
Yeah, I know plenty of people that would get their ice delivered to their house. I would have been one of them, actually.
So weren't you afraid, particularly being a female, of having a dealer come to your home, or were you that desperate for the drug?
At the start of my using, I was a bit more sceptical, but as my using went on, you just didn't really care. It was just, if they were offering the drug, here's my address and I'll be there waiting.
The police weren't onto it. I mean, clearly they're going to be onto it now, but were you at any point worried that they would be, given this is so open? I mean, anyone could have looked this up.
I wasn't very worried back when I was using, because I had a few situations where the cops actually had my phone, and because they were a bit ignorant, they never ever looked in my dating sites. They went through my contacts, they went through my messages, but my apps, they never even touched them.
Hayley, the ICE task force is basically figuring out the lay of the land at the moment, so what advice would you give them?
I'd ask them to maybe make recovery a little more readily available for people that can't afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing, I think, because I was lucky enough to go to a rehab that was private. It was called DayHab, and it was run by ex-addicts. But all the public rehabs, in my opinion, they're run by people that don't really have any experience, but because they're the cheapest ones, that's where all the people are going, and they're not really getting the recovery that they need.
Hayley, everyone is saying, particularly this week with the task force beginning on ice, that they've never seen a drug so devastating in this country.
Yeah.
For our viewers watching, remind us how horrific it was and how it changed your life for the worst.
Well, let me think. So like I said, I started when I was 19, and it took probably 6 months before I dropped 30 kilos. I was psychotic. My family hated me. My friends were scared of me. And I'd lost my job. I was driving unlicensed and, getting pulled over by the cops every second day. And it was just horrible.
And how long have you been clean for, Hayley?
I've been clean for just over 18 months.
That is so wonderful to hear, Hayley, and we really appreciate you coming on air and speaking to us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Of course, if you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction, go to the Science We Like page on our website and follow the links. It's time for another break.